Hello and welcome back. I guess welcome back to me. I've been a little bit busy traveling over the last month. This time last month I was in Singapore at the Cyber Week. Then after that it was the Philippines. And just this last week I've been in Dubai. And in Dubai I was attending Experts Live, which I don't know if you're familiar with, but Experts Live is quite a different proposition from your usual IT tech security conference. So, I mean, I go to a lot of conferences, and I think you know the ones I'm talking about. They're huge. It's all about who's got the biggest stand, who's got the best swag, and I mean, these are good places to go and get a general kind of scan the market and see what's out there. But I generally come back from those conferences pretty tired, and also like I've not really learnt anything new. And Experts Life is quite different in that you're going to, I mean, as the name suggests, so a place that is, fully attended by experts, and you get to really see in first kind of real life situations, actual demonstrations of product, and then you can have discussions with people about the product, how it works, and really get into that. So I think it's a completely different proposition. I mean, yes, it has a quite a strong Microsoft focus, but again, that you're going there. There's going to be some top quality Microsoft experts there. So I decided that I wanted to give a talk at the conference at Experts Live, and that went down pretty well. But just in case you couldn't make it, I thought what I'd do is record a version of it here, and then everyone can benefit from that. So with that said, I just in case you're not familiar with Experts Live, I think I can just show you a little logo. So have a little search for it. There's one in the UK, there's one in Germany, one in the Netherlands, and there's one in Denmark, and of course the one in the UAE and Dubai as well. So I can strongly recommend it. So definitely look them up. Anyway, so on to the presentation. So this was the presentation. 5 reasons to deploy EPM on every system. And hopefully the content of it will be self-explanatory as we go along. So anyway, let's start off with a kind of right at the start. So I'm sure you're all familiar with the whole concept of privileged access management, or PAM. So this gets a lot of focus, and these solutions tend to be used to control and manage fully privileged credentials, enabling you to safely administer critical systems without the risk of credential theft or unauthorized access. And those works fantastically. And as actually PAM adoption has gone up, infrastructure security has got tighter and more difficult to penetrate. Attackers have figured out that there is a much easier route in via users located on the edge of networks. Malicious applications that users might have downloaded can lie dormant on systems. They're just waiting for the time to switch on, and usually it is just a matter of time when privileged elevation is detected. And because of this, best practice now dictates the use of an endpoint privilege management solution, or EPM, to manage those non-privileged users. An easy way to explain EPM is it's kind of like having a mini PAM for each endpoint. And I've heard people refer to EPM kind of in the distance at these events as endpoint PAM, which I think is quite a nice term, sort of self-descriptive. Anyway, so now you know your organization needs an EPM. Which users and endpoints should you deploy this to? So here is a typical EPM customer journey. Here's how it starts. I need an EPM solution to cover a small subset of my staff who perform a lot of privileged actions. For example, developers, classic. No one else is given or needs local admin rights. Therefore, I can save a huge pot of money by keeping the EPM deployment exclusive to these high risk users. So that's how things start. The the request then for budget would go in for the EPM for this small group of developers. It would get approved and all good or not. Because here is generally where this story ends. I now realize that I should have planned to roll out the EPM solution throughout my entire organization. And the reason for that is because you can't be certain of where privileged use may occur across the whole, what we call user edge. Everyone on that edge is a risk. So now you're asking for more money. And, finance departments don't like that because they see you come in the first time, they approve your request for budget, and you come back a second time. That means that every time you're going to go, they're going to be thinking, well, what is he going to ask for next? Anyway, so you don't want that to happen to you. So what I thought I'd do is this presentation is all about how the arguments that you're going to use to get the budget for the full deployment first time. The case for full coverage. Number one, visibility. So this is kind of, I guess, maybe a bit obvious, but how can you monitor for potential privileged use without 100% coverage on all your systems, the PCs, the Macs, and the Linux systems? It's sort of pretty obvious. So here we have, an inventory. This is what you would get. If you deploy to your whole organization, you're going to get an inventory that gives you all the data in it. And you can't monitor what you can't see. And once you can see everything, you can start piping the events and alerts from those systems whenever privilege use occurs, even if it's not expected to occur, into your SIEM system. And those privileged accounts, they may even be granted by privileged users elsewhere in your organization. So, in return for favors for flat whites, as I call it. So you need to have visibility of everything. Also, EPMs, Admin By Request especially, usually have inventory, and we have a very powerful inventory solution built in. We don't talk about it enough, quite frankly, because I do talk to customers about their experiences with the product, and they always compliment us on our inventory system. And the main reason that they like it is because everything in it is pretty much up to date in real time, and that's not usually the case with other MDM solutions. So this makes it a very reliable source of truth, but also with the reporting you get those breakdowns, and I find it quite useful for troubleshooting. If I've got a group of computers that something doesn't work on and a group where it does work on, I can go into the inventory and I can see what is different. Spot the difference. Simple but effective. Right. So also, we talked about looking for privileged accounts that you don't know exist, so you can't see what you don't know is there. Okay. So this report is one of the, I think, most useful reports that we give, and this is called the Local Admin Report. And this is the kind of report that your Cyber Essentials or ISO 27K auditors is going to absolutely love, because they're going to come in, they're going to say, I want to see a list of all the privileged accounts on your systems now. And that could take a while, but not with this report, because you just run the report and there you have it. Customers use this report to keep on top of those privileged accounts, and if they see any that pop up, and you would get an alert if one did, you can go in and you can revoke that with that little button immediately. Okay, so this one is actually probably the most interesting, I think. And at the event this week, I asked the audience, does any of you have Lenovo laptops? And there was a few people put their hand up. Now, one of our customers discovered, after expanding the rollout of Admin By Request EPM to cover the entire company, that users issued with Lenovo laptops using Lenovo's update software, this software was adding a TMP Lenovo user to the system's local admin group. And this was being done presumably to enable Lenovo to perform update actions that required admin privileges. And here we have a screen grab that the customer sent me of this phenomena. And you can see quite clearly that it's adding a user to the local admin group. And that is kind of scary. And if this functionality was ever compromised, I think there's a serious potential for it to become a very effective supply chain attack. And it was only discovered because the customer expanded their deployment to cover the entire company. So another really good reason. Number 2, updates and patching. So you're probably thinking, I've got patch management, I've got Intune to handle this. But actually, sometimes it's just not practical to put everything on that system, every single minor beta release. In particular, if the update is required to address a critical problem, like if a production line has stopped or something, and there are extreme time pressures or emergency situations, it's just not possible to go to the people that do the MDM. So the time to prepare, test and deploy MDM managed updates, patch managed updates, increases the risk of being hit by those costly day zero attacks if users are allowed to circumvent the MDM by obtaining privileged credentials for a one-off emergency install. Okay, so a good EPM like Admin By Request allows you to easily configure whitelisting to give staff an easy means to safely elevate approved security cleared collections of authorized apps from a simple read-only network share. And this functionality can also be sort of popped up as an escape road if your MDM is having a bad day or just can't work quick enough. So let's have a quick look at how this works in practice with Admin By Request. So on the right hand side is the endpoint, and I'm just trying to run VLC that I downloaded and it's not going to let me. So the policy here is a network share that is read-only, and our IT department have put the same file in that network share. And remember, I don't have privileges here as a user. So I'm going to run that file from the network share. And because of the rule, it's going to let me elevate and run that installer. Okay, and just click on that. And I'm going to continue with the install. There we go. Perfect. So for a minor release, we don't need to put it, on the MDM. We're going to save a lot of time. The user can do this. And also everything is audited in the audit log here. You can see exactly the state of play with regards to who did it, when it was done, on what computer, and so forth. So that is quite a nifty trick that your EPM can do, but obviously only if you deployed it to your entire organization. Number 3, non-privileged help desk. What is a non-privileged help desk? Well, help desk teams, they should never be issued with standing privileged accounts, and this is a big risk in terms of both user trust, what systems they can access and what they can do on them, but it also greatly increases the likelihood of help desk staff inadvertently triggering ransomware, malware, by assisting non-privileged staff to install applications on their behalf via a assisted remote session. And EPM can prevent this common vector by enabling non-privileged help desk staff to context switch in the user profile, and thereby upgrading the help desk user's privilege to just enough privilege to provide safe support. Again, we're following the principle of least privilege throughout the entire company, including help desk staff. This is also valuable if third parties and vendors need access to systems as well. Do you want to give these guys fully privileged accounts to look at, say, the security event log or run privileged actions to fix things? I don't think so. So the key thing here is help desk users are still users, and the concept of zero trust still applies. So let's run a quick demo to show you how this works. So on the right hand side, I'm a user and I'm trying to run Oracle. So because of Oracle's draconian Java licensing rules, I do not want users running Oracle software themselves. So the user has to submit a remote support request. And to do this, I'm actually going to use Admin By Request's secure remote access remote support feature. But you could do this, I guess, with other remote support software that can do screen share. So once the technician has got the request for the screen share, the technician approves. This is the secure remote access, so the help desk technician needs to do the MFA. A notification is sent to the user who accepts, And then we have the screen share situation with the help desk technician on the left and the user on the right. So we're just sharing the user's screen. So anything the help desk technician does is going to end up with the same outcome. You're not allowed to run the Oracle software. So this is where the EPM comes in. Our EPM has a great feature called Assistance or Support Assist. And when it's triggered, and you can see it's started here by the technician authenticates using MFA, if that's how it's been configured, then the technician can then get their privileges upgraded to a higher privilege of Admin By Request settings, but still not full privilege. And all of the auditing and the safety of elevating applications and getting the OPSWAT scanning, which happens here, is all active for your help desk team. So you can see the help desk person has the rights to run Oracle software. So that just means that you're able to do this privileged action, but you don't need to be keying in any privileged credentials at all, and certainly nothing that requires full privilege. So here we're going to do services. So the technician can stop and start services. Again, this is just what you would do as part of a general troubleshooting. I think we're also going to have a look at, there's a quite a nifty uninstall software applet. So you can rather than go into the control panel, you've got a self-built applet here that allows technicians to easily go in and simply change your uninstall software. And I think we then finally going to have a look at Device Manager, which of course needs privilege to run. But again, we don't want to give the help desk our full privilege. We want to give them just enough privilege to run Device Manager to update a driver or detect some new hardware. Okay, so this is what we call a non-privileged help desk. The help desk can do all the tasks they need to do. They just don't need the risk of full privilege to do it. And the nice EPM integration here is that if you're using the secure remote access and the EPM, if there are disconnections, the remote support session will finish automatically. And then we have the audit log. And this is nice because it shows you a combined log of the end user who's being helped and the technician who is doing the work. So on top of the audit trail benefits, it's also good for teamwork, because the technician that was on shift now might be off shift later, and the person that comes on shift can now see what was being done before him. And if you were using the secure remote access, you'd also have a screen share of the entire session too. So that is the third reason, the non-privileged help desk. So moving on now to the fourth, which is emergency privileged account provisioning. Try saying that after you've had a few. So what is this all about then, right? Well, from time to time, users can find themselves in situations where they are no longer able to log into their PC because of some critical system issue, such as a problem with their directory join. With best practice policies implemented, the built-in administrator account would be disabled. And as the directory join has failed, the privileged directory groups, just domain admins or device admins, they're not going to work anymore. Okay, so this is a kind of classic scenario where the use of lapse or cloud lapse fails because the directory join is needed for remote retrieval of the password rotation that's been rotated to work. So depending on how your local lapse policy is set up, the password would have rotated since the join failed, and therefore the password in AD or Entra will not match. Options such as booting from safe mode and re-enabling the built-in account is not preferred and cannot easily be independently performed by the user. So with full EPM coverage, the benefit for the built-in break glass solution enables you to deliver a just-in-time, unique, one-time use set of centrally accessible privileged credentials. And unlike lapse, which uses a fixed user and password rotation and a working AD Entra join to manage it, Admin By Request break glass issues a standalone local account which is not dependent on that directory join to work. So this delivers a big time saving for lockouts, which result in remote wipes due to the inability of the user to follow complicated rescue routines. Break glass usage should be a one-time use with full auditing of who issues the credentials and when they land on the endpoint and when they're used and what was done when they were used and when the account has been destroyed, and all of that stuff you can get out of the system through the API. Right, so let's have a quick look at how our break glass solution works. So on the right hand side, I'm going to run a net local group administrators account command, and we see there are some accounts in there, but my break glass account is not in there. And I need to send a break glass account because I become, my join is failed. I've got my administrator accounts disabled and I can't use any other means of getting admin on this system. So I click on the break glass button of the endpoint. I select the amount of time the account should work for, and instantly, within a second, the account is on the system and is ready for use. And on the left-hand side, you can see the audit trail is there. It tells you when the account was issued, when it was created, i.e. when it actually landed on the endpoint, and also when the user logs in with this account, it'll show you when they've logged in and then what they've done privileged when they're logged in. So this is so much better than, so much cleaner than using the Laps or Cloud Laps. And I'm showing you here on a PC, but we also have this functionality on Mac as well. Okay, so the last of the reasons is kind of interesting. Offline application execution control. So, some management applications and rescue scripts and troubleshooting tools, whether they require privilege or not, must be user initiated inside the user profile. However, it's quite likely for such sort of tools, you don't want the user to be able to locate and run those applications themselves unattended whenever they like. And, we say that privilege is a right to do something, not just as admin sometimes. And Admin by Request can enable the blocking of non-privileged applications as well, if used in the right scenario. So, as mentioned, sometimes apps do need what I call escorted access. So with those repair and configuration scripts, there's a requirement, maybe even for a user to run the executable offline. I mean, being offline might be the reason why they need help in the first place, which makes request submission via traditional online approval workflows difficult to handle. So Admin by Request EPM allows you to configure blocking rules which require the user to enter a challenge response pin, even if they're up a pole or down a hole, in order to run that specific executable. So on running the file, after being instructed to do so by a technician, the user would have to be presented with their unique one-time PIN, or PIN 1 as I call it, and then they'd give that PIN 1 to the technician who generates the PIN 2 from the portal. PIN 2 is then given to the user and the application can be executed. And then when the user, and if that application is one that requires elevation, the entire set of actions that are logged locally offline can be synced with the portal when that user next comes online. So let's have a quick look at how this works. And what I've done here is I'm using two applications, one non-privileged, which is Putty. Now, I've just used Putty because it's a nice, easy, portable application. You'd never run Putty elevated. So it's just an example of something I want to control running non-privileged for the user. And then the other one is Rufus, again, a nice portable application, but Rufus needs privilege to run. But again, in this case, I don't want the user running Rufus without getting permission first. So, I mean, obviously these are quite common applications. If they were internal use only applications, executables, the user wouldn't be able to download them. In fact, they wouldn't even know where they exist. So you can put these applications in tray tools and refer to them, but the user won't know where they come from. So in that respect, you do get control over how the user accesses the applications as well. So look at me selecting those from the what we call the tray icon and tray tool. So again, let's have a quick look at how we manage non-privileged and privileged application blocking. So here I go. So tray tool, I'm going to go to tools and I'm going to go and attempt to run Putty non-elevated, and you'll see that immediately if I try and do that, I'm blocked. So now I need to get a PIN code to run this non-privileged application. So I click on the PIN code. I would now need to make a call. If you had an API, you could probably submit that PIN through it, and because we have a PIN code API, so you could do something with text messages, I guess. And here we put in the PIN 1, and then PIN 2 is generated. PIN 2 is then given to the user, and then once that PIN 2 is entered, if it's correct, the party starts. Okay, and remember this works just as well offline as it does online. So next we're going to go to Rufus. So Rufus is different because it's a privileged application, but really as far as Admin By Request is concerned, it's kind of transparent because we're handling the privilege. So again, I'm going to give the technician my PIN 1, and the technician's going to then give me the PIN 2 once it's been generated. So in it goes, and then once that PIN 2 is being entered, I click OK, and then Rufus will start elevated, and I can format a USB key. And it's as simple as that. And again, really handy functionality, but you can't do this unless you've deployed your EPM to your entire organization. So, this is just to show you that the PIN code system and the blocking system has got full auditing. Again, this is all accessible, through the API event system. You pass this on to your SIEM. Anything that talks REST can consume those logs as well. Right. Okay. Well, those are the 5 reasons to deploy Admin By Request EPM on every single system. So you can go to finance with a request to budget to cover the entire organization and use those arguments. And I'm talking about endpoints here, and most people consider endpoints as workstations, but don't forget Admin By Request has a server edition. So you can do all those things that I've just done on servers, as you can on traditional workstations. So don't forget that as well. So cover your servers, is what I'm saying, every system. So anyway, sum up then. So the capability for privileged operation is everywhere. I think we agree on that. You need an EPM on every system to keep on top of that, just as I've shown you with these 5 reasons. And then with those reasons, you're going to be able to ensure you get the budget for full coverage, and that budget request is approved.